Hi, everybody. It's Ryan at Pie Records, and this is season 3, episode 1. And we like to do something a little different. We got a roundtable going. We got a bunch of different people, kind of in the same walks of life. Today, it's record labels, independent record labels, power pop, punk rock, all sorts of great stuff. And I'd like to start with Chris. You want to introduce yourself and tell me what label you're affiliated with?
Sure, I'm Chris. I'm affiliated with, I guess, or the only person really involved in Dirt Cult Records out of Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. Chuck?
Yeah, I am Chuck, and I operate Snappy Little Numbers quality audio recordings from Denver, Colorado.
And Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I am the only person here at Reta Records. I guess, am out of Montreal at the moment, but back and forth between Saskatoon and Montreal.
Very cool. The reason I brought all of you together is because of our buddy Martin. He contacted me and said, I think these guys would be a really cool interview. And when I realized after interviewing you guys, you had some kind of circle going, I thought it might be a good idea to get you together and just have you guys chat and maybe kind of actually converse for the first time. Chris, you want to start off? Do you have any questions?
Oh man. God, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to start with. You might want to go to someone else. I don't
Okay,
know.
I'll start with this. Signing a band, getting the records pressed, and promoting. Chris, what are some of your choice methods of doing that?
I mean, if you want to start with like the first part of that, like quote unquote signing a band, certainly with Dirt Cult, and I'm betting it's true with these other labels too. There's no signing. There's no anything like that. I mean, all of this is like, be it a virtual handshake or like, a conversation over a beer or something like that, just kind of coming to some kind of agreement just in terms of like, how we're going to handle the pressing, how we're going to handle promoting, and like how many copies you're going to get, how I'm going to pay you if it makes money, etc. But so I think that's an important point. I think a lot of people do like send like demos sometimes, and they're like, would you sign us? And sometimes that's such a foreign concept to me. I'm like, I've never done that. I'll talk to you. If I like your band, I'll talk to you, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of my perspective. It's like a handshake sort of thing.
Yeah.
No contracts or anything like that. But in terms of the decision-making process, it's just based on like what I like. And I think a lot, too, like the last time we talked, like kind of the perspectives of the people as well is really important. Are these people I do want to hang out with and have in common is things in common with us sometimes as important as like the music they're actually, bringing to me, or I'm pursuing, I guess. I don't know about the other two of you all, but that's kind of my
Chuck,
take.
what do you think? Do you agree with Chris? And what are some of your marketing strategies that help you get bands like Brian Baker's band? That's a pretty big deal.
Well, so that happened through a friendship, and so a lot of the bands I work with and the records I put out, I come to just through friendships, through 20 plus years of playing music and releasing music and going to shows and traveling, and it's one of my favorite things about music is how social it can be, especially when you start talking about like like subcultures and different kind of like counterculture and stuff that where like-minded people kind of gravitate to the same things. So a lot of that is, just making relationships and continuing relationships just because you enjoy being around folks and like having those commonalities that kind of drive all those creative discussions. And so with Foxhole Stacks, it was a friendship with Jim Spellman that led to working with that band. And, it just happenstance that Brian played bass on the record. And it was one of those things where, I wanted to do the record either way. And for me, it was certainly lucky that they're all like punk rock famous, but, Jim's my friend and the band was good, and that checks both boxes that I need. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Jamie, you got a lot of stuff going on. You have a bunch of releases through the Pale Lips, and also the other 2 7-inches. You have Haley and the Crushers and the Sorrels, and I want to know what your process is in comparison to the other guys. I know you use that really cool record pressing plant. I checked them out, Clamp Down, and it's fascinating. And I think it goes right along with what you're doing.
Totally. So yeah, pretty much along the same lines of the, same process. I create relationships with bands, we all have group texts going on, and we just kind of like bounce ideas back and forth all the time. I love pressing like colorful, beautiful, like artful records, I guess, that kind of like represent the music in like a visual way also. And I've been working with Clamp Down. They're awesome. Next release will be with Clamp Down again. And on like the artist side, it's the same thing. Like I still talk with everyone pretty much that's released Pale Lips records. And I think that that's important, like having a relationship with your record label or an artist or, whatever. I also don't sign bands, and it's more of like a passion project, I guess, like when I first started making music, people gave us a chance, and I try and do the same thing with bands that I think, I guess it's like bands that I really love. I hear the songs and I'm like, oh, this should be on record. Let's make a record, that kind of situation. So yeah, there's no signing, nothing like that. Virtual handshake, totally. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I do like that method, and I employ that myself. And you're right; it has to truly be something that you say, "Oh, this has got to be on record."
Totally.
Like if it's not me putting it out, somebody's got to put it out. So let's talk about how you guys all run around in the same kind of circle with each other, but you've never met. Chris, you want to start off?
Yeah, I think that Jamie and I actually, I don't think I've ever even communicated at all. But I would imagine that we probably have a ton of mutual friends, and I think that's just kind of, I don't know. And Chuck and I have talked. Chuck orders records from me from time to time. We've had some conversations about some mutual friends here in Portland. Kind of from that. And I don't know. I think that I have some of my closest friends are really the people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing in terms of releasing records. It's good to have a network of people who you can kind of like, talk about concern, things that come up for you that no one else in your personal life would really understand at all, or just kind of, complain about whatever it is that's, frustrating you about running a label that day or whatever. So, yeah, Chuck and I have talked, but we've never met. Jordan, if he was on this call, we we met maybe once for about 2 minutes, but text like almost daily. Just stupid shit, even if it's you know, about third eye blind or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that oftentimes there's just kind of a bond that's formed by people doing this because we're doing it, you know, and we kind of know what it's like for each other.
It's very,
Totally. And I
very
also
cool.
think like one thing that I kind of learned being on this side is the importance of like connections and community. And yeah, just like sharing that kind of stuff, you know, like I think back in the day there was like this maybe kind of mindset that, you know, my connections are my connections, but that's totally not how I feel at all anymore. Like, well, I mean, I've never felt that way, but I mean, I feel like that kind of mindset is out the window, you know. We all want to help each other out. We're small labels, you know. We're not making a lot of money doing this, or I mean, I'm not. So, but you know, I want other labels and bands that I like to succeed. You know, like that's my mandate. You know, I'd rather lift each other up. You know.
Yeah, it's collaboration, not competition, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I feel like that for sure. And that, I mean, I feel like kind of the way I came up was like that. It was like that. And that's just how I've always wanted to be, and wanted to try and at least hope that I was approachable in that manner for other people too. I mean, I'm no expert at anything, but I certainly am happy to share. And I want to learn too. So I enjoy talking with other people and knowing how they do things. And it totally is definitely, I think Jamie's right. There's a period, or maybe it kind of depends on different scenes, since there's a million different sub scenes. But yeah, you know, sometimes people are protective about things, but you know, I'm kind of the, you know, we can all succeed together kind of mindset. And that's just what I, you know, try and foster with my approach to things.
Totally. So in forming that relationship, I would say sometimes it's very natural and easy, and sometimes it can be difficult. Do you find the difficult times, if you stick it out, are just as rewarding if the communication becomes more clear between you guys and the bands? Chris, you could start.
I don't know. I think that I mean, well, I mean, you're just talking about like, I guess I had brought up complaining about certain things or whatever, just like hardships that come up as the result of running a label. Are you talking about like kind of getting through those then? And
maybe I misphrased that. I don't mean difficult, but sometimes you may see a band and there's a level of trust that has to be taken on both sides of the label and the artist, and I think that's a better way to phrase it. How do you foster that relationship?
well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say for me, like one thing is that like, I mean, this label started to put out my own band stuff because no one else was going to, you know, like, and I'm still on the other side of it, kind of like Jamie was saying, you know, working with other labels and stuff like that with my own bands. And I think that does give me the you know, like I'm here for you, and I'm wanting to like prop you up, you know. I'm kind of not a huge player in all of this. I'm just kind of like a vessel or whatever. So I think that kind of goes back to that like handshake understanding or whatever. Like, you know, I have so many different releases, and almost every single one has a different kind of arrangement attached to it, you know, like, and I'm super flexible. I'll tell a band, this is what I normally do. What do you think? And if they push back on it, cool. You want to keep your digital, awesome. You know, you want whatever it is, you know, just really trying to be, because I've been on the other, kind of the shoe's been on the other foot. So, I mean, I really just kind of like follow their lead, I guess, in terms of what they want to do.
Awesome. Chuck, being in bands, I think you and Chris share that same perspective, as well as Jamie. Uh, Chuck, do you wanna describe the fostering of the relationship between the band and the label, like how you can nurture that?
Yeah, so I mean, at least for me, it's you know, every band is different, and it's, you know, different personalities, and you just, I think it's one of those things, just it's just kind of in real life too. You know when you click with people, and you know when you're kind of on the same page, and you know when you're maybe not, and that's okay. And something that I sometimes wrestle with, but get better at as I get older, is you know, liking a band or loving a band and being their friends doesn't mean that you're the right one to put out the record. You know, so sometimes you sometimes you let things go because you might not be the best home, and then other times you are. So it's really kind of a consistent two-way dialogue, feeling out other people. But for me, it's one of those things that if it's a good fit, it's usually one of those things you recognize early on, and then it's kind of a, you know, it's a real family lifetime kind of arrangement. Although I tell people, I think I told you this before, Ryan, but I will always hope that someone can do better than me, but if they can't, then I'll be happy to do it. But you know, just because I want to see friends do well and succeed. But yeah, it's usually just, you know, I always tell people up front what I can or can't do, and you know, some people ask those questions, other people tell me what their expectations might be, and I just try and be real honest with what I can or can't do, and bands can decide from there, you know, if they're okay with what I can't do, or if they like what I can do. And you know, like with Chris and Jamie, playing in bands and working with other labels too, you know, it's helpful to experience both sides of it, because I think it helps you be better at each, just in terms of really understanding and also being flexible, because yeah, it's not like a one size fits all kind of thing, and it's really important to not try and like shoehorn something in that isn't working, because you don't want to handcuff any potential for either party by, you know, being too rigid about something.
Yeah, I totally get that. Jamie,
Mhm.
how did you build your relationships with your bands, and how did you use being in Pale Lips, how did you use that side of it to kind of say, oh, maybe they, you know, I'd like this, and maybe the bands would like if I did this?
Yeah, I mean, I always have like a pretty open conversation with um, whichever band is putting out the record. I'll just take an example of the Sorels, because that was the last record before like the Haley and the Crushers record. Um, so I love the Sorels. They're great. You know, we have like a group conversation where we share pictures of our pets, and you know, we talk on the phone sometimes, and we share music, and it's more of like a friendship, you know what I mean? Which is awesome. And I kind of feel that way with Pale Lips. Like some of the people who have put out our records, like Ted from Spaghetti Town or Carlo from Surf and Kai, like we talk, you know, we share music and we're buddies. And yeah, I don't know, I kind of like that aspect of it. Maybe it's like not as professional as like a bigger label would have, but I'm into it. And you know, that's who I am. I'm nice, and I'm talkative, and I like building relationships that way. And also I like having relationships with bands so that like we can do more than one project together. You know, like there's been 2 Sorels records, 2 Haley and the Crushers releases. um, I like that, because also people on the outside who are looking at the label kind of understand the vision of the label a little bit, and they understand the bands that are on the label and the sound and the look. And so what I find now, kind of like as I get more into it, is I have folks that will go on the website and they'll just order a bunch of records because they know that it'll all kind of fit in, the same, not box, but you kind of know what I mean? Like if they like the Sorrells, they're also gonna like Haley and the Crushers, or, they'll like Sister Susie. And even though it's not the same, really the same type of music, it all kind of fits in like a nice little package. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like making like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it properly, but I like when people are able to go to the website and they'll order a bunch of records, maybe some that they've never heard before, and they'll get them, and then they'll send me an email a week later and be like, this is awesome. I found some bands that I never would have found otherwise, and I love them all, and they all look cool and sound cool, and thank you,
One more question before we end this meeting and start the second half. Speaking to what Jamie said about professionalism, I think trust and respect are not the same as professionalism. Professionalism is more cut and dry. We all have had jobs where you're not rewarded by merit, you're rewarded by politics and things like that. Just describe your work ethic when it comes to being more direct and just respectful, as opposed to being professional. I mean, there's a level of professionalism, but I think it's a completely different mindset. Chuck, would you like to start off?
Sure. Yeah, it's when you say professional, my initial instinct is that I'm like super unprofessional about how I do records and music and stuff, although that's not entirely true because there's some structure to it. And, I'd like to think that I work hard and that I'm a responsible person. But yeah, you're right. Like you say, it's kind of, doing a record label or being in a band is kind of a chance to lead by example. And I don't mean that in a, trying to get your way to the top and dictate how people should do things. Like that's not my interest at all. It's just, this is how I would like things to be for people. So I try and put my best foot forward in that regard. And, when it comes to professionalism, it's really kind of, this is kind of how I kind of delineate, and it's, some people just love music and some people are in the music business, and there's nothing wrong with being in the music business, but I don't feel like I'm in the music business. I feel like I just do music. Like music's part of my life.
Totally.
And it's part of my DNA and how I relate to a lot of people. I mean, I have a life outside music too, which I think is very, very healthy for people to have. But so much of it is music driven, and it's just, I want to share and I want to do a good job with the record, but I don't care about sound scan. I don't care about likes. I mean, it's awesome if people are like into stuff. I want people to be able to sell records and have people come to shows on tour or whatever. But for me, it's much more of a, organic, get out, play the shows. The merch table will always be the best place to sell a record, in my opinion. And that's, it just kind of starts from there and goes outward. You can spend a lot of money trying to turn people onto a record, but it still doesn't replace just being out and being around people and playing shows and these networks that we all have, and then the larger thread that connects people like us that we haven't met in real life, but we have the similar ethos and aesthetic that kind of keeps us in each other's realms, and those become kind of known quantities, and you just keep going over time, and that is what starts bringing people over. There's really no substitution for effort and time if you want to create something sustainable. So that's just kind of how I approach it.
Cool.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about records selling during the pandemic and COVID, because you're completely right. You know, like speaking for Pale Lips, like we sell records when we tour. You know, we don't sell that many records off of our Bandcamp. I mean, we do, but you know, it's not even close to comparable.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit worried about how the label would do during COVID. But I've been surprised.
Same.
You know, people have been incredibly supportive. And you know, I hear the same thing from the bands, and I hear the same thing from my friends that are playing in bands. It's just been like a very supportive time, which I kind of, I guess I'm a little bit surprised by, but
pleasantly surprised at, but yeah,
this time last year I was like, I think I'm done. You know, this is over. But I agree. And part of that maybe, I mean, people just, I mean, the people who do have jobs do have a bit more disposable income. You know, I certainly know that's not everyone, but you're not going to the bar, you're not going to shows. And I think people are making a conscious effort to, the people who value this are you know, making an effort to continue to support it, which is amazing. You know, it makes me hopeful for what's going to happen after all of this is kind of passed.
Totally. I've been surprised in a good way.
Yeah.
But even like you know, there's like a few venues that are, you know, putting out like shirts and stuff. Like I have this one. This is Turbo House.
Nice.
Is like the best venue in Montreal. You know, they're selling t-shirts because they're not open, and you know, the community is showing up. You know, people are showing up to show their support, and I don't know, if I can take one positive thing out of this last year, that's it, is mutual support and respect. It's awesome.
Awesome. On that note, we're going to end part 1, and everybody stay tuned for part 2. Thank you guys. We'll be right back.